Greetings from Nude Mars Education. Today we discuss on how to write a scientific article. Successful production of a written product for submission to a peer-reviewed scientific journal requires substantial effort. Such an effort can be maximized by following a few simple suggestions when creating the product for submission. By following some suggested guidelines and avoiding common errors, the process can be streamlined and success realized for even beginning novice authors as they negotiate the publication process. According to Albert Einstein, the whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking, basics of manuscript preparation, and general writing tips. To begin, it might be interesting to learn why reviewers accept manuscripts. Reviewers consider the following 5 criteria to be the most important in decisions about whether to accept manuscripts for publication. 1. The importance, timeliness, relevance, and prevalence of the problem addressed. 2. The quality of the writing style, that it is well written, clear, straightforward, easy to follow, and logical. 3. The study design applied, that the design was appropriate, rigorous, and comprehensive. 4. The degree to which the literature review was thoughtful, focused, and up-to-date. And 5. The use of a sufficiently large sample. 10. For these statements to be true, there are also reasons that reviewers reject manuscripts. The following are the top 5 reasons for rejecting papers. 1. Inappropriate, incomplete, or insufficiently described statistics. 2. Overinterpretation of results. 3. Use of inappropriate, suboptimal, or insufficiently described populations or instruments. 4. Small or biased samples. And 5. Text that is poorly written or difficult to follow. With these reasons for acceptance or rejection in mind, it is time to review basics and general writing tips to be used when performing manuscript preparation. Research article format. Abstract. Introduction and review of literature. Methods. Results and discussion. Conclusions. References. Abstract. Sometimes written as an afterthought, the abstract is of extreme importance, as in many instances this section is what is initially previewed by readership to determine if the remainder of the article is worth reading. This is the author's opportunity to draw the reader into the study and entice them to read the rest of the article. The abstract is a summary of the article or study written in third person, allowing the readers to get a quick glance of what the contents of the article include. Writing an abstract is rather challenging, as being brief, accurate, and concise are requisite. The headings and structure for an abstract are usually provided in the instructions for authors. In some instances, the abstract may change slightly pending content revisions required during the peer review process. Therefore, it often works well to complete this portion of the manuscript last. Remember, the abstract should be able to stand alone and should be as succinct as possible. Introduction and review of literature. The introduction is one of the more difficult portions of the manuscript to write. Past studies are used to set the stage or provide the reader with information regarding the necessity of the represented project. For an introduction to work properly, the reader must feel that the research question is clear, concise, and worthy of study. A competent introduction should include at least 4 key concepts. 1. Significance of the topic. 2. The information gap in the available literature associated with the topic. 3. A literature review in support of the key questions. 4. Subsequently developed purposes, objectives, and hypotheses. When constructing a review of the literature, be attentive to sticking or staying true to your topic at hand. Don't reach or include too broad of a literature review. For example, do not include extraneous information about performance or prevention if your research does not actually address those things. The literature review of a scientific paper is not an exhaustive review of all available knowledge in a given field of study. That type of thorough review should be left to review articles or textbook chapters. Throughout the introduction and later in the discussion, remind yourself that a paper, existing evidence, or results of a paper cannot draw conclusions, demonstrate, describe, or make judgments. Only people, authors, can. The evidence demonstrates that should be stated. Smith and Jones demonstrated that. Conclude your introduction with a solid statement of your purposes and your hypotheses as appropriate. The purpose and objectives should clearly relate to the information gap associated with the given manuscript topic discussed earlier in the introduction section. This may seem repetitive, but it actually is helpful to ensure the reader clearly sees the evolution, importance, and critical aspects of the study. Methods. The methods section should clearly describe the specific design of the study and provide clear and concise description of the procedures that were performed. The purpose of sufficient detail in the methods section is so that an appropriately trained person would be able to replicate your experiments. There should be complete transparency when describing the study. To assist in writing and manuscript preparation, there are several checklists or guidelines that are available on the journal website. The consort guidelines can be used when developing and reporting a randomized controlled trial. The STARD checklist was developed for designing a diagnostic accuracy study. The PRISMA checklist was developed for use when performing a meta-analysis or systematic review. A clear methods section should contain the following information. 1. The population and equipment used in the study. 2. How the population and equipment were prepared and what was done during the study. 3. The protocol used. 4. The outcomes and how they were measured. 5. The methods used for data analysis. Initially, a brief paragraph should explain the overall procedures and study design. Within this first paragraph, there is generally a description of inclusion and exclusion criteria which help the reader understand the population used. Paragraphs that follow should describe in more detail the procedures followed for the study. A clear description of how data was gathered is also helpful. For example, were data gathered prospectively or retrospectively? Who, if anyone, was blinded? And where and when was the actual data collected? Although it is a good idea for the authors to have justification and a rationale for their procedures, these should be saved for inclusion into the discussion section, not to be discussed in the methods section. However, occasionally studies supporting components of the methods section such as reliability of tests or validation of outcome measures may be included in the methods section. The final portion of the methods section will include the statistical methods used to analyze the data. This does not mean that the actual results should be discussed in the methods section, as they have an entire section of their own. Most scientific journals support the need for all projects involving humans or animals to have up-to-date documentation of ethical approval. The methods section should include a clear statement that the researchers have obtained approval from an appropriate institutional review board. Results, discussion, and conclusions. In most journals, the results section is separate from the discussion section. It is important that you clearly distinguish your results from your discussion. The results section should describe the results only. The discussion section should put those results into a broader context. Report your results neutrally as you found them. Again, be thoughtful about content and structure. Think carefully about where content is placed in the overall structure of your paper. It is not appropriate to bring up additional results not discussed in the results section in the discussion. All results must first be described, presented, and then discussed. Thus, the discussion should not simply be a repeat of the results section. Carefully discuss where your information is similar or different from other published evidence and why this might be so. What was different in methods or analysis? What was similar? As previously stated, stick to your topic at hand and do not overstretch your discussion. One of the major pitfalls in writing the discussion section is overstating the significance of your findings or making very strong statements. For example, it is better to say, findings of the current study support, or these findings suggest, than, findings of the current study prove that, or this means that. Maintain a sense of humbleness, as nothing is without question in the outcomes of any type of research, in any discipline. Use words like possibly, likely, or suggests to soften findings. Do not discuss extraneous ideas, concepts, or information not covered by your topic paper commentary. Be sure to carefully address all relevant results, not just the statistically significant ones or the ones that support your hypotheses. When you must resort to speculation or opinion, be certain to state that up front using phrases such as "we therefore speculate" or "in the author's opinion." Remember, just as in the introduction and literature review, evidence or results cannot draw conclusions, just as previously stated, only people, scientists, researchers, and authors can. Finish with a concise, 3-5 sentence conclusion paragraph. This is not just a restatement of your results, rather is comprised of some final, summative statements that reflect the flow and outcomes of the entire paper. Do not include speculative statements or additional material. However, based upon your findings, a statement about potential changes in clinical practice or future research opportunities can be provided here. Conclusions. Writing for publication can be a challenging yet satisfying endeavor. The ability to examine, relate, and interlink evidence, as well as to provide a peer-reviewed, disseminated product of your research labors can be rewarding. A few suggestions have been offered in this commentary that may assist the novice or the developing writer to attempt, polish, and perfect their approach to scholarly writing. If you want to watch more this type of video watching, please like and subscribe. Thank you. If you want